Oh dear. Ah! Hello everybody and welcome to the Penelope Possum channel with me, your hostess Penelope the Possum. Um, hmm. So, you might have noticed I have a different browser now. Yeah, I was getting tired of Google Chrome. Hello! So yeah, we've got a different browser now. It's Opera GX, no sponsor because we don't do sponsors here. Yeah. That should be the end of that. Alright. Hold on, we gotta fix some things. I am feeling better. I'm feeling a lot better. I did end up getting Explodo, sick with my sick, though. So that wasn't cool. He had the flu? Oh, that's awful. Okay, there we go. "4 days of the flu" sounds awful. I would like that to be quieter, please. Aggravating? Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, that should be good. Alright, so we'll be doing some creepypasta readings today. I guess we'll do this one. I didn't even start the recording. Gosh darn it. Oh well. Okay, so we're going to be reading The Sinking House by, I don't know. So yeah, everybody ready? This is The Sinking House. Colt was only 13 years old when he rode as fast as he could away from Benji and Caleb, the most menacing boys in Troop 0172. It was the dead of night, and only the faint orange moonlight lit the narrow path for Colt's tiny canoe. Yes, okay. Which was starting to overflow. Benji and Caleb, whose kayak was much bigger and rowing skills were far superior, were gaining on him, shouting them from less than 50 away. Give up. Yes. Benji hollered, his ugly words bouncing off the tide. Just give up, Caleb followed, his voice slightly straining. When Colt was sure he had reached the center of Gardner Lake, he stopped rowing and let go of his oars, raising both hands in the air. The kayak approached, practically bumping the canoe. The boys laughed maniacally, clad in camo shorts. Benji tossed a can of Miller Lite at Colt, which he dodged easily. Caleb bit his lip as Colt crossed his arms, waiting for whatever the boys had in store. I should kill you right here. Benji spat into the water, clenching his fists. I'll slice you like the fruit you are. Colt sighed as Benji drew a pocket knife from his shorts. He was ready for this confrontation, even though he had no idea how to fight since last summer. Since last summer, Colt had been running from the rumors, running from all the ugly words about him being different and better off dead. He was done running from the truth. So do it, Colt said coldly. Slice me like the fruit I am. The thing is, you'll have to slice Caleb after you're done with me. Colt, don't, Caleb uttered, his lost blue eyes locked helplessly on his. Before they could move, they heard a sound from underneath the water. An odd sound that stopped them in their tracks. It sounded like music from a piano. Oh, hold on. Piano music. I've got piano music. Hold on. There we go. Like the one that sat in his grandparents' living room. The notes sounded tinny and creaky, like they belonged in an old saloon. What the hell was that? Benji snapped as the new notes grew increasingly louder. I guess we'll just keep that going. It sounds like Swanee River, Caleb murmured as Benji shot him a wide-eyed glance, mouthing the words, "What the fuck?" He quickly corrected himself, or something, I don't know. The tinny, creaky notes grew increasingly louder. That's the only one I've got. Meh. I'll have to find more of those. The waves collapsed within themselves like water at the edge of a fall, cascading down into a dark abyss. They desperately tried to battle backwards, but the violent current sucked them down into the abyss. Colt couldn't scream as his lungs started to fill with water. He held his breath, attempting to swim to the surface, but the downward current proved much too strong. Benji and Caleb must have sunk far beneath him, as he could only see the lake's murky water from all directions. Just when Colt thought he couldn't see any deeper, his body smacked something hollow. Do I have a hollow smack? Yes, I do. Oh, way. For a moment, everything went dark. When Colt opened up his eyes, he found his body strewn out on an old oak staircase, water rapidly entering his airways. He willed himself to hold his breath for just a little longer as pieces of a brick or cavity wall penetrated the stairs above him. How long could he realistically hold his breath? Last summer, his sister Nikki timed him for 2 minutes and complimented his lung capacity. Or maybe it was 90 seconds. He wasn't sure and wasn't about to find out. Colt mustered the strength to propel his body upward. His entire body ached as he squeezed his arms behind his ears and pointed his feet together, kicking them like a dolphin's fin. Years later, he'd be grateful for being the only kid in his friend group to make it to the advanced level swimming lessons. As Colt began to kick, he saw a shadow looming on the cavity wall, slowly creeping into focus. Out of the corner of his eyes, he thought he saw a young boy floating in the entryway. He could only discern the boy's blonde hair and short stature. Turning his head, he realized the image of the boy belonged to a large portrait decaying on the wall of the house. Something was wrong, though. Terribly wrong. As Colt propelled his body toward the surface, the cavity walls still surrounded him. The oak staircase stretched longer than it first appeared, now winding into the depths of the waters. The walls were lined with black and white portraits of men, women, and children. The portraits numbered in the dozens, several dozens even. Their faces were warped and pixelated. Some of their faces were devoid of expression altogether. Colt knew he was inside an old colonial house. But why was it underneath the water? Why did it seem so massive? Before he could comprehend these questions, never-ending wall of portraits sank rapidly beneath him, along with the winding staircase. He grew dizzy watching the walls zoom past him and the stairs twist into a dark oblivion. He couldn't help but notice the faces in those warped, pixelated portraits were now visible, but looked like decomposing corpses. Nauseous and losing consciousness, Colt swam as rapidly as he could to the surface. Only mere seconds passed before he popped his head over the surface of the water, taking long, gasping breaths. He heard voices, but the voices were muffled as he struggled to breathe normally. Something was wrong again. Benji and Caleb were back in their kayaks and looked completely dry. There's another boat next to theirs. Scoutmaster Jeff's black and white motorized fishing boat. From their boats, the three of them stared at Colt, not in a menacing way, but looks of genuine concern. Scoutmaster Jeff extended his long, hairy arm and pulled Colt into the boat. There was something about the Scoutmaster's smile that felt off to Colt, especially at this moment when the look of concern changed to a warm glance with a sparkly white smile. Everyone else was charmed by his blonde-haired, blue-eyed man of God, but he saw it for what it was. "Oh my goodness, Colt!" Scoutmaster Jeff exclaimed, throwing a towel around him and helping into the vinyl passenger bench. "We were so worried about you." "What?" "Yeah, man," Benji said, with suspiciously watery eyes. "When you came out here on your own, we were so worried." "Wait, what? You guys chased me out here." Colt struggled to find his wording as they stared at him. Caleb and Benji climbed from their boat into the Scoutmaster's, put an arm around Colt's shoulder, forcing a seat next to him. "The hell? Don't touch me." "It's no way to talk to friends." Scoutmaster Jeff shook his head and sighed. "I know that you've been through a lot, but these boys saved your life. What are you doing out here?" "They were chasing me," he said, even softer. "And you guys were with me. We were all sinking. How was your boat? How are you still Whoa, whoa, whoa," Caleb said, throwing his hands up. "The only reason it looked like we were chasing you is because you took off in the middle of the night." "Yeah, dude," Benji chimed in. "By the time we got here, you dived into the water." "It's a good thing they came back and told me," the Scoutmaster said, placing a third unwanted hand on him. "You were out here for a long time. We split up to search for you. What were you looking for?" "What the actual fuck?" Colt mumbled. "You guys were drowning with me, and then you were gone. I was in this old house, and the threesome stared at him in deep puzzlement. Colt wanted to shout or throw punches at them, but something held him back. He knew it wouldn't be any good. Scoutmaster Jeff laughed heartily. "Okay, I think I know why you came out here. Benji, Caleb, I'm not sure if you know this legend, but Colt can tell you about the sinking house." "The what?" "Don't be modest now, Colt. You're a real history buff like me. See, boys, sometime in the late 1800s, a family tried to push their house across the lake when it froze over in the winter. It sounds crazy, but they thought they could do it. Had the townspeople help them push the house on skis. It was a monumental task, of course, so the family in town took a day's break. Next day, the house started sinking." "What?" Colt said again in absolute bewilderment. "I guess that makes sense now. I mean, I saw the staircase and the portraits and..." Colt's words faded into another hearty laugh from the master. Ha! You have an active imagination. The house sank over 100 years ago. Even when I was a boy, Divert had taken most of the valuables from the house. You wouldn't have seen any portraits. What? But I did, and I heard piano music. This time, all three of them laughed heartily. I can't do 3 laughs at once, so use your imagination, please. Scoutmaster Jeff patted his back once more, which caused Colt to squirm. Looks like someone's bought this particular legend, hook, line, and sinker. As the threesome droned on about the odd legend, Colt heard the tinny, creaky notes beneath the waves. Colt shivered and Caleb bit his lip. They exchanged glances for a quick second. Colt furrowed his brow, which caused Caleb to gulp before turning back to the Scoutmaster. After the conversation ended, Colt and Benji climbed back into their boat, which the Scoutmaster had tethered by rope to his. He tethered Colt's too, which had a small hole in the stern. For the first few minutes, as the boats glided across the waves, the lake sounded peaceful. When they neared the shore, however, the notes of Swanee River played again, this time increasing in volume. The Master, and Benji were blissfully unaware of that awful song. And then again, maybe they were being purposefully deceptive. He was too tired to delve, but knew that Caleb heard the notes when he caught sight of his trembling lower lip. After they reached the shore, Scoutmaster Jeff and the boys moored their boats on a wooden dock and attempted to lure Colt back onto the campground. Colt insisted he needed some time alone. Reluctantly, they headed back to the site, which was still lively with activity. Colt stayed on the dock, admiring the orange moonlight and the way it illuminated the lake. He would often sneak out onto the docks when boys told campfire stories or played their pranks on each other. On any other night, he would have felt at peace. But tonight, he couldn't help waiting in nervous anticipation for the eerie piano music to return. Tonight, he couldn't help waiting for Benji and Caleb to get him when he least expected. On the other hand, they might just keep up the charade of claiming Colt dreamt about being chased, just like he dreamt of the sinking house. Hey, bud. Colt groaned as he heard his tent mate Jordan step onto the dock. Are you coming back to camp soon? Colt shook his head. No, Jordan. Just leave me alone. Whoa, I just came out here to see how you're doing. Colt turned around, groaning more audibly as he saw the only scout considered weirder than him dressed in an oversized X-Files t-shirt and torn sweatpants decked with little alien heads. We both know why you're out here. You heard them talk about the sinking house and how crazy I am. I don't think you're crazy. Of course you don't. Colt sighed and then took a seat at the end of the dock. No offense, Jordan, but you're the last person I want to talk to about this right now. It's not like you have anyone else to talk to. Jordan Jordan replied, taking a seat next to him. Why are you out here anyway? Colt composed himself with a single, deep breath. I can't tell anyone, Jordan. I mean it. He nodded. Benji saw Caleb and me walking together the other night. Caleb got nervous and told Benji I was stalking him, which is not true. Anyway, they chased me and I took a kayak to get away from them. That wasn't a good idea because they were better kayakers than I am. And then Colt looked to see if Jordan was still listening, which he truly appreciated. The other scouts would have made fun of his lisp by now, or have told Colt how he deserved it. And we heard this weird piano music and started drowning. I know it sounds crazy, but it was like we were sucked down a portal, a vacuum or a portal or something. I ended up in the sunken house and had a staircase and creepy portraits. I know it sounds unbelievable, but you found the sunken house of Gardner Lake, Jordan exclaimed. You would know the legend. I do, and I can't believe you found it. Holy shit, dude. Colt smiled faintly as Jordan went on about how he researched the house on this website called the Shadowlands, and always wanted to find the house. Well, they don't believe me either. Then they're full of it. Everyone knows about the legend. If they deny it, they're lying to themselves. I guess so. Alright, Jordan said, sighing and looking over to his shoulder. I'll tell you something too if you promise not to tell anyone. Okay. Last night, I saw a scout I didn't recognize. He was standing on the docks where we are now. He wore this old school scout uniform. A khaki green shirt and pants like my dad had in the 70s. He said his name was... Well, I forgot what it was exactly, but he was looking for our scoutmaster. I woke up the scoutmaster to find him. By the time we got there, he disappeared. You're saying you saw a ghost? All I know is there's a lot of strange stuff out there. How did he react? Colt laughed as Jordan made his best impression of Scoutmaster Jeff, bulging his muscles. Listen to me, Jordy boy. I'm your Scoutmaster, and you must be a manly man like me, and not believe in any ghost stories. Oh, that was apparently supposed to sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh well. He doesn't sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He might as well with his fake macho attitude. The boys joked and made impressions of Scoutmaster Jeff and the other campers until they drifted off to sleep. Colt had fallen asleep on the dock before, but tonight was different. Jordan knew he was weird and didn't care. Colt envied Jordan's carefree attitude and lack of humility. Dull sounds of crickets and waves lulled them into a deep slumber. A few hours before sunrise, Colt heard the tinny, creaky notes from beneath the waves again. The notes no longer resembled Swanee River, but a much older song, one he didn't recognize. It sounded like a classical, like Beethoven or Bach. Those were the only names Colt could recall from a short summer break he took piano lessons. Jordan, wake up! Colt nudged him a few times until he gasped. Jesus, dude, what is it? Do you hear that? Jordan stretched his arms and then all of a sudden sprang to his feet. Holy shit, dude, where is that piano music coming from? You can hear it? Of course I can. Hey, Scoutmaster Jeff's boat is gone. With each passing note, the boys paced back and forth on the dock, wondering what to do.
Hush.
Colt checked the time. 3:00 a.m. Why would the Scoutmaster take his boat out this early? The notes were coming. Where were the notes coming from? And why were they so loud and unnerving? He only had a moment to contemplate these questions before his thoughts were interrupted by muffled screams. Who the hell is that? Who's out? Colt clasped Jordan's mouth and the muffled screams continued. The screams continued, conjoined with the tinny creaking notes, paralyzed them in fear. Jordan gestured for Colt to jump into the kayak. Unwittingly, Colt followed. As they paddled deeper into the lake, they could no longer make out the screams or notes. Only the faint sound of the tide, a gust of wind remained. Oh my God. Colt could barely believe his eyes as he saw Scoutmaster Jeff's black and white motorized fishing boat several yards away from them. Though the boat was eclipsed by darkness, he could make out the silhouette of Scoutmaster Jeff and another, smaller figure. Is that who I... Colt nodded slowly. Before they could say anything more, the boat sped off into the distance. Colt and Jordan were stunned. For the rest of their stay at Gardner Lake, the boys barely spoke to each other. But as the months passed, Colt knew something about Scoutmaster Jeff was off, and that something awful happened in the middle of Gardner Lake, and it wasn't the piano or the house. He tried to convince Jordan that they should tell somebody. He insisted that all the boys were accounted for and that they had no proof. The boy who needed no proof to believe in aliens, Bigfoot, and even the Chupacabra suddenly decided to be reasonable about this one moment in time. When the months turned into years, Colt stopped going to Scouts while Jordan stayed. He wanted nothing more to do with Troop 0172. He didn't want to be with friends, with someone who only acted eccentric and outspoken when it suited his interests. Several years after Colt graduated from college, he could hardly believe that Sasha, one of his best friends, started dating Jordan. Sasha was an intelligent girl, working on her master's degree in biology. Jordan, unsurprisingly, dropped out of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting to become a professional YouTuber. Needless to say, his endeavors weren't successful. Colt and Jade and his other best friend lived together in a small house on the outskirts of Winsted. To his chagrin, Sasha and Jordan often stopped by the house together. Colt tried to make himself scarce when he was around. One dreary December afternoon, he found this impossible to do. "Colt, come here," Jake called from the living room. He was napping in the late afternoon and woke disoriented him as she called him a second time. Colt, get up. We're going to be late. Jade, Sasha, and Jordan playfully snickered as he wandered into the room. He stared blankly at them for a few moments. Sasha and Jade were in their long-sleeved white satin dresses. Jordan was dressed head to toe in a taupe suit with a wool jacket. Jade and Sasha fidgeted with their purses while Jordan adjusted his cufflinks. You seriously forgot? Sasha giggled. Jordan played with her hair until she smacked his hand away. Hun, we're going to Samantha's wedding today. You were sleeping all day, Jade said. You were talking really loudly in your sleep, and you said you never knew why. I don't remember that. And isn't she more of your friend, Sash? Yes, but... And Jade, weren't you going with Miguel? She shook her head. He canceled last minute. He wasn't feeling well, so now you're my plus one. You're kidding. I don't blame him. He's been through a lot these last few months. So have you. Sorry, I didn't mean to. She sighed. Don't worry about it, and I have, but I'm ready to get off my mind off things. It'll be fun. I hope. Where is it? Colt asked, rubbing his eyes. It's at the Viridian. Sasha perked up as she said the name. It's a really adorable rustic venue on Gardner Lake. Colt and Jordan exchanged wide-eyed glances, chomping their lips. The girls didn't seem to notice as they gushed about the charm of the venue. Jordan missed several hints from Sasha as he checked something on his phone. Wait, Jordan spoke hushedly. His eyes were still locked on the screen. This is the same Samantha who was just engaged to a different guy last year? It was a few years ago, Jordan. She groaned and nudged him. She's been with this nice guy named Caleb for the past couple of years. Colt and Jordan exchanged the same glances, even more wide-eyed this time. Saunders? Colt uttered. Caleb Saunders? How did you know? They said almost in unison. We went to Boy Scouts with him. Jordan looked up from his screen and exhaled deeply. He's kind of an asshole. Jordan! No, for once Jordan's right. He and his best friend Benji used to pick on us when we were little. That sucks, hun, Jane said, slinging an arm around his shoulder. Kids are the absolute worst, but it's been like, 15 years? Almost. People change. Let's go, guys. Sasha tugged Jordan towards the door. What's wrong, Cole? Nothing. Are you sure? I got to get changed into something nicer and we'll go. Give me 3 minutes, you guys. They laughed as if they had forgotten about Colt and his t-shirt and sweatpants. In his bedroom, Colt discovered the wedding invitation Jade dropped on his bureau. Caleb looked the same, only somehow blonder and more unhappy than he remembered him. As he stoically held a gleaming Samantha in front of a rose garden. The last time Colt saw them happy was when they were 12 and holding each other in Caleb's bedroom. genuinely enjoying each other's company. Caleb's father hosted scout meetings, which often led to the boys sneaking off while the other parents and kids engaged in some menial activity. The boys had been best friends since elementary school and even took piano lessons together. Swanee River was one of the first songs they learned on the piano. The closer they grew, the angrier his father became. He never found out anything he did, but his suspicions were enough to send Caleb to some kind of religious summer retreat with Scoutmaster Jeff and a few other scouts from his camp. By the time Colt inquired about the trip, Caleb had already left. When Caleb returned, he barely acknowledged Colt's existence, other than to mock him and Jordan with Benji. Colt traced his fingers over Caleb's stoic face before heading out into the bitter winter evening. "It's a little less than half an hour from here," Jordan said, as he started his clunky Chevrolet. Colt and Jade squeezed into the back seat around boxes of clutter and discarded cans of soda. "Excuse the mess, guys." "Don't worry about it," Jade said, swatting some cans onto the floor. After a while, Jade noticed how unusually quiet the guys were. "This guy must have been awful to you, huh?" "Jade!" Sasha exclaimed, as Jordan nodded straight forward. "I thought we said that people change." "You said that." Jordan was still unusually quiet. "People like Benji and Caleb don't change. They made our lives miserable every chance they got." Sasha sighed. "Really? I'm sorry, guys. He seemed so nice when I met him and Sam for brunch a few months ago. What did he do?" "They chased me," Colt said softly. "They chased me by a boat into the middle of Gardner Lake, saying they were going to kill me." "Tell them the other part," Jordan said hoarsely. "They won't believe me. They won't believe me. They'll believe you." "Colt?" He stared blankly out the window before his name was said a few more times. "Yeah, sorry. It's hard to think about it. They said they were going to slice me like the fruit I am. And we were piled under by this weird rip current. I sank into the water and saw this house." "Sorry," Jordan chimed in, perking up a bit. "Sometime in the 1800s, these people tried to push a house across a lake when it froze over in the winter. The house sank. Some say it was haunted. We even heard piano music coming from the lake." "Thank you, Jordan. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, the house was really old and had these strange photographs. When I came to the surface, I saw my scoutmaster with Benji and Caleb. The two denied they ever chased me, denied being pulled under the water. The whole thing was weird." "The rest of the summer they taunted us mercilessly," Jordan said, clenching a fist. "They taunted Cole for seeing the house and for hearing music on the lake. They accused Colt and me of being together and spray painted outside of our tent. I kicked both of their asses for that." "I don't remember that," Colt said faintly. "Beyond the morning, they spotted the scoutmaster's boat. The remainder of the summer was a blur. Perhaps he was so angry at Jordan for not wanting to say anything that he forgot the rest. I quit scouting shortly after that, but Jordan's right. They didn't change. They were assholes in high school, too. Couldn't be out because of guys like them." "Luckily, they only thought they were cool," Jordan said. "Being a scout in high school isn't a popular thing to do. Trust me, I would know." I wouldn't be surprised if that asshole Benji is the best man. He is. Sasha was surfing her phone, thumbs shaking. Benji's the best man. And who did you say the name of your scoutmaster was? I didn't. Jordan turned on the interstate highway, struggling to keep his old Chevrolet steady in the wintry mix. Scoutmaster Jeff. He was a well-liked religious do-gooder, but I saw straight through it. He's the officiating pastor, Sasha uttered. I'm sorry, guys. I totally didn't know. We can leave as soon as it's over. It's probably for the best, Jade stated firmly. I had no idea when I met him either. Yeah, Colt kept his eyes fixed on the road. We can use travel or something as an excuse. Well, wait a minute, Jordan said. Maybe I could capture some footage of the lake for my YouTube channel. Don't even, Jordan. Sasha put a hand on his leg. I thought you were giving that up. Jordan ignored that remark and fiddled with dials on the radio. Sick of listening to my playlist. So are we, Jade laughed. There's only so much rockabilly we can take. It's weird. I only seem to be getting one channel out here. 96.1. Hey, it's playing this old-timey music. Really old-timey music. Three of them simultaneously groaned as Jordan turned up the volume and snapped his finger to the tune of a ragtime piano. The channel was a bit static-filled, so he turned up the dial a little bit more carefully for the next half hour. He annoyed them with his station and imitated a ragtime performer with a transatlantic accent. They pretended to ignore Jordan by being on their phones or talking over the music. When Sasha was sick of pretending, she shouted for him to shut the hell up. This went on until tinny, creaky notes from an old piano blasted for the car's speaker. What is this crap? Can we change this? Judd nudged for the back of Jordan's seat. I think I recognize this from an old movie, Sasha remarked. It's still awful, though. That's Swanee River, Colt murmured. Those awful notes were unmistakable. It wasn't the upbeat version they had learned in piano lessons, but the slow, droning one heard on Gardner Lake all those years ago. Typically, when you heard the audio version of the song, an old-fashioned crooner was accompanying those notes with additional instruments. This version sounded like it was produced in a saloon, or from the grand piano in his late grandparents' dining room. The four of them stayed silent as the song's volume and droning melody increased. That's the same song we heard on the lake that day. Jordan quickly switched the radio to Bluetooth mode and sighed in relief as his rockabilly playlist came out. We're not far out, guys. Let's just talk. Serves you right, Sasha said, slapping his knee. Jordan and Colt's stoic expression caused Sasha to instantly regret his actions. I don't know what's going on with you guys, and I don't know how to help. What happened to you was messed up, and I'm sorry. All I can say is if we stick together tonight, maybe it won't be as bad. The three of them agreed to this pact. The closer Jordan drew to the rustic lakeside venue, the louder the songs rattled throughout Colt's mind, even after they parked in the snow. sprinkled lot and stepped out into the frigid night. He could only hear the notes playing on repeat. He wasn't sure if the notes were in his head or from the distant lake. Burrowing his hands in his jacket, Jordan seemed unbothered and unable to hear the notes. He and Sasha linked arms and scurried past some guests to the main entrance. Jade grabbed Colt's arm, which somehow caused the music to cease entirely. "You'll be okay, and if it sucks, you have plenty of relatives who can die." Colt chuckled. "We're not in college anymore. My old Aunt Lucy can't die and get us out of a history test again." "Why not? If it sucks, your favorite aunt can have a heart attack or something." Jade and Colt joked about this and other college shenanigans as they made their way inside the lobby for cocktail hour. They marveled at the massive tinseled Christmas tree that scraped the wooden beams. Jade remarked how lovely the stone accented walls were along with the linen-covered cocktail tables. When Jordan and Sasha sauntered over, the girls split off to socialize with Samantha's friends, leaving the guys to scan the room for familiar faces. "Cranberry and goat cheese baguettes?" a tuxedoed waiter asked at their side. Colt shook his head while Jordan grabbed a fistful from the tray. "That's very..." "Swallow." "Sorry, that's Benji by the tree. He's talking to..." "Aw man, that's Scoutmaster Jeff." Benji wore the same blue-streaked spiky hair knew for in high school, while Scoutmaster looked as smug and well-dressed as Colt remembered him, sporting a crew cut and a navy suit. Colt and Jordan watched the men reminisce with former scouts and clink glasses together. Something about their happiness made Colt nauseous. Maybe it was Benji's pompous laugh or the way Scoutmaster touched all the men tenderly as he spoke. It's like they don't remember, or they don't want to. "Jordan, don't you remember the morning we went on the kayak? You know, the same morning we heard the screams from his boat?" Jordan nodded. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I don't know. Maybe I was too scared. Who knows how many... Sorry." Cole willed himself to stop, exhaling deeply. Bulbs from the Christmas tree started to flicker. They flickered bulb by bulb, first in columns, then circling the tree, in the way a snake circles and encloses its prey. Colt grabbed Jordan's arm as the bulbs started to burst. No other soul seemed to notice as the glass burst onto the floor. Benji and the Scoutmaster laughed heartily with the others, unbothered by the glass raining upon their heads. They couldn't scream. They couldn't move. Colt rapidly blinked, hoping his eyes deceived him, but when he locked eyes with the group again, the men looked like teenage boys, wearing their tan shirts and long green shorts. The Scoutmaster remained his current age, caressing each boy's back. "Jordan, are you seeing this? Jordan?" "What the hell's going on?" "I have no idea." Before they could say anything more, the glass from the chandelier burst into thousands of pieces. Jordan and Colt were unable to avoid the shards that pierced their shoulders. 100 of the other guests carried on as if the glass wasn't falling into their food and drinks. Jordan yelped as a shard of glass sliced the top of his ear. He cupped his ears, but the blood trickled through his fingertips. Colt reached to help, but then hit the floor as 2 more chandeliers exploded along with the last lingering light in the room. In the darkness, Colt saw a faint flicker of a flashlight. The light illuminated faces of dozens of boys, all different ages, bringing their forefingers to the brim of their hats. Some of the boys wore older uniforms. Colt only saw in photographs, sporting the 5 buttoned choke collar coats and the canvas leggings. Their faces looked older, too, with stoic expressions and oil-slicked hair sticking out of their caps. In unison, the boys recite the code. On my honor, I will do my best, do my duty to God and my country, and obey the Scout law. Help other people at all times. Keep myself strong, physically, mentally awake, and morally straight. Despite standing right in front of him, the boys' voices were hollow and grainy. They sounded as if they were pre-recorded on a wax cylinder gramophone or an even older device. The boys repeated the oath once more, their words bellowing in the darkness. The words help people, other people at all times, caused Colt to tremble as the light shined on the Scoutmaster's equally stoic expression. Guys, are you okay? As two fingers snapped, Colt and Jordan regained a sense of their surroundings. The lobby returned to its former glory with all the lights, tree bulbs, glass, even Jordan's ear intact. They brushed themselves off, anxiously checking their surroundings. It took several seconds for them to gather their composure and move into the reception room with other guests. What the hell was that? Jade asks. I don't know. By the time they had begun to comprehend the preceding events, the guests were seated in the reception hall, which was filled to the brim with beautifully hand-carved wooden chairs. Sasha and Jay gawked at the elegant white runner, the rose-covered altar, while Colt and Jordan scanned the crowd for anyone who looked the slightest bit unusual or out of place. When they made sure that their minds were cohesive, the reception commenced. For some reason, Colt felt an overwhelming sense of drowsiness when Scoutmaster Jeff took his place by the altar. He could barely keep his eyes open. When Caleb walked down the aisle, unlike his invitation picture, he seemed full of life, with his raised cheeks and a wide smile. He met Colt's gaze for only a moment before his eyes darted elsewhere. As the groomsmen and bridesmaid took their positions, Colt's head nodded up and down, his muscle tone decreasing, thoughts straining to inconsequential images of Jordan and Colt playing cards in the tent, Jordan entering another tent, Caleb standing alone on the docks, Benji drinking a can of beer. As Caleb and Samantha were pronounced wife and husband, these images drained into darkness. Colt knew he wasn't sleeping, however, as his body led him to the dining area of the hall, where the four of them were seated at a table of 8. Oh my goodness, this is a long story. That was beautiful, Sasha said, a bit teary-eyed. I mean, the ceremony, of course. It was quite a good ceremony. Jordan yawned. I'm not into all that religious stuff, but their vows were beautiful. I agree. I often thought about my wedding, what my wedding would look like. What do you think, Cole? Jade waved a hand in front of Colt's face. Earth to Cole? Yeah, no, it was good. I'm just tired. A boy with a khaki green shirt and pants came into his line of sight, gaping at Scoutmaster Jeff from a nearby punch bowl. Hey, do you see that weird kid by the punch bowl? Colt, that's not nice, Jace said. But yes, it is kind of weird to see a kid wearing a Boy Scout uniform. The boy took slow, almost robotic movements toward Scoutmaster Jeff's chair. No, he is weird. Who dresses their kid like that for a wedding? Oh God, Jordan, what's wrong now? You two have been acting weird and quiet all night. I saw that same kid when I was little, Jordan's voice cracked when he spoke. Oop! That's the end of the story. We'll continue this next Saturday, I guess. It looks like we still have half of the entire story to read. Holy moly. This is a super long story. I'm glad everybody who came here was here today. Thank you for joining me here tonight for this spooky, scary Saturday. As always, have an awesome night, possums. Yes, this is a very long one, and we'll have to wrap it up next Saturday. I'll catch you guys Tuesday. Yes, very interesting. I'm wondering where it's going to end. I think the Scoutmaster might have diddled some kids. Yes, good night, possums. It's a good story so far. Always remember, as always, remember to like, subscribe, comment, whatever you feel like doing. Remember to stay out of places you can get trapped in. Stay out of engine compartments. Stay out of traffic. Stay hydrated. Stay awesome, possums. I love you all. Have a great night.